Hello, my name is Brianna Reyes. The presentation today will be focused on Dolores Huerta and the impact that she has had and continues to have on Mexican American families. And without further ado, let's continue. Si se puede, right? All right, so now you might be asking yourself, who is Dolores Huerta? Why is she so important? And why did you choose to present on her? Now, I will get to that, but first, let's start off with some of the basics. So, who is Dolores Huerta? Her full name is Dolores Clara Fernandez Huerta. She was born April 10th, 1930, and she is still with us here today. She's currently 91 years old and seemingly living a wonderful life. Her parents were Alicia Chavez and Juan Fernandez. Dolores Huerta is also a 5-time award winner and civil rights activist. Before moving on, I'd like you to see an image of Dolores Huerta just so that you can put a name to the face as I continue to give out information. So this strong and independent woman was one of humble beginnings who firmly believed in advocating for the greater good. She's often seen with a microphone or megaphone or some sort of device because she was constantly talking and, people listened to her and enjoyed what she had to say. In this image here, we see the passion in her face and pain all in one, which is just truly inspiring. So now, moving on to the next slide, what did Dolores Huerta do? I mean, what did she not do, right? She is a civil rights activist, like I mentioned previously. She also co-founded the National Farm Workers Association. She co-founded this alongside Cesar Chavez, which we will be speaking about further on in the presentation. Dolores Huerta also coordinated the national lettuce, grape, and gallo wine boycotts in the 1970s. And she also contributed to the Agricultural Labor Relations Act. So as you can tell, with the very little information that I have given, we can already tell that Dolores Huerta is a very important person in history. Moving forward to our next slide, we see various images here of Dolores Huerta marching. In many of them, she is along Cesar Chavez, whom we see throughout a lot of the images here. We see her holding signs. We see her with microphones. She's constantly speaking, like I said before, and advocating for the rights of those farm workers. All right, moving on to the next slide. Here we go. Yes, we can. I'm sure you've heard that slogan before, right? Perhaps by an important person by the name of Barack Obama. Yes, that's it, right? So this widely popular slogan was the one that Obama used during his 8-year presidency. It was what he used throughout his entire campaign. And you might be asking, Brianna, why are you bringing Barack Obama into this conversation? He has nothing to do with it. But no, Barack Obama was one of the many fans of Dolores Huerta, so much so that he even adopted her slogan. So here we see Dolores and Barack together as he places a medal on Dolores. They two had a very fond relationship, as I stated before. Barack was very fond of Dolores. He admired her and all that she has done for Mexican Americans in this country. Moving forward. So what is Dolores Huerta's slogan? As you can see on the slide, it is Si se puede, which is just the Spanish translation of yes, we can. Now you might be asking again, Brianna, didn't Cesar Chavez come up with this slogan? And the short answer is no. The slogan was one created by Dolores Huerta, although it is commonly mistaken, even by Barack Obama, thought otherwise initially. So Dolores Huerta did come up with this slogan, and it was later translated to English by Barack Obama, and it is what he uses. Dolores Huerta also uses this still at her 91 years of age. It is very popular. It is something that represents her. All right, moving on to our next slide. Here we see an image of Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huerta speaking publicly, doing what they did best. They had a very close-knit relationship, most likely because they shared many of the same ideologies and they supported one another through thick and thin. They were each other's support system throughout it all. Cesar and Dolores thought of each other as equals. They had great relationships throughout it all. All right, so moving to our next slide, Huerta and Chavez. So much like Huerta, Chavez was a Mexican-American farm worker and civil rights activist. They met through a CSO associate and quickly acquainted through their common interest in organizing farm workers. In 1962, the two founded the National Farm Workers Association, which later became known as the UFW, which stands for United Farm Workers. So if it weren't for that CSO associate, Huerta and Chavez would have never met. I'm sure they're very thankful for that person, and I think everyone in the Mexican American community here in the United States is very grateful for that as well, because now with Huerta and Chavez and all that they have done, there is much more justice than there used to be in the past. Moving on to our next slide, we have some of Dolores Huerta's family members. These three pictured here are three of her children. They are three of the 11 kids that Dolores Huerta had. On the very left, we have Camila, in the middle, Emilio, and on the right, Maria Elena. All right, so moving on to our next slide. More about Huerta's family. Dolores had a total of 11 kids. Yes, I said that correct. 11 kids. They are Camila Chavez, Alicia Huerta, Juana Chavez, Emilio Huerta, Ricky Chavez, Lori Head, Maria Chavez, Celeste Head, Fidel Huerta, Vincent Huerta, and Angela Cabrera. So Dolores, on top of being so busy with advocating and being a civil rights activist, she had a very large family. Moving on to the next slide, more about her family. Dolores Huerta had 3 different partners and had several children with each of them. By the time her career as an activist really began, alongside Cesar Chavez, Huerta already had 7 kids and relied on her $5 a week salary, which was merely nothing, knowing that she had to feed 11 kids. Most of the time she relied on donations for food and clothes to feed her kids and clothe them. Moving on to our next slide, we have a picture of her family. Very early on, before all of her kids were born. A lot of the time her children were left alone because she was out fighting for the rights of farm workers. Her oldest child recalls having to take care of the younger kids because Dolores would spend so much time advocating. She would be out advocating, and there was a time when she was a single mother, so her oldest child had to take on the role of being the mom. Okay, going on to our next slide. Some fun facts just to wrap up the presentation. So Dolores Huerta went to college and received a teaching certificate. She did teach for a couple of years at an elementary school before she found her true calling. Another fun fact is that her mom, which was a single mom, very independent and strong as well. She owned a hotel and restaurant, and in that hotel there was about 70 rooms, and she would often let immigrants sleep there for free. And the last fun fact on this slide is that currently there are at least 4 schools that are now named after Dolores Huerta, which is truly inspirational if you would ask me. And our last fun fact, we will wrap up with her favorite songs. So Dolores likes all kinds of music. She has stated that music was a sense of hope, not only for her, but for all of the farm workers that she had met. They would often arrive to the field feeling unmotivated, yet as soon as they heard the band, they would just be re-energized and they wouldn't feel tired anymore. Dolores mentioned how music gave all those farm workers energy to take action, not only in their work in the farm, but also as they were advocating and boycotting and all that they had done. Her favorite song by far is called This Little Light of Mine, which is a religious song. She stated that This Little Light of Mine was a song that really spoke to her. She states, "We need it now. Our light has to shine," which is very inspirational, something that we should all appreciate. And with that, we are done with our presentation. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you were able to learn something new from this.